In the days of Noah, when the great flood covered the earth, Scripture tells us that the fountains of the great deep were broken up and the windows of heaven were opened. Genesis 7:11. That cataclysm was not only a global deluge, but also a violent geological upheaval. Vast amounts of water and rock were forced upward with explosive power, some of it escaping beyond Earth's atmosphere. In the vacuum of space, this expelled water crystallized into ice. In the book Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 79, we are told, rocks, mountains, and caverns were scattered by the convulsions of the earth. In many places, mountains have been thrown up, and in others depressed into valleys. The earth's crust was broken and upheaved in spots, and there were volcanic fires bursting forth from beneath the surface. The surface of the moon that faces Earth is scarred by countless craters, bearing a silent witness to this ancient catastrophe. Much of its pitted surface was struck by fragments of rock and ice ejected during the flood. Huge amounts of this water, which became ice, were captured in elongated orbits around the Sun, becoming what we now know as comets. Among them is Halley's comet, which still circles back toward Earth, its place of origin, in its appointed path. God himself testifies of this in Job 38, 22-23. Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? The language of reservation implies storage. These cosmic hailstones, formed when the waters of the deep burst forth, have been preserved in the outer heavens as instruments of his future judgments. In the book The Faith I Live By, page 357, we are informed, in the bowels of the earth, in the depths of the sea, in the treasures of the snow and hail, God has reserved the elements of his wrath, which he will let loose in his appointed time. Also in the book Maranatha, page 306, we are told, God has in store in the treasures of hail the weapons that he will use for the destruction of his enemies. He has in reserve the treasures of snow and hail, to be employed in the last great conflict. The book of Revelation confirms this connection. In the trumpet and bowl judgments we see hail, fire, burning mountains, and falling stars used as divine weapons. Revelation 8:7 speaks of hail and fire mingled with blood, devastating the earth. Revelation 8:8 describes a great mountain burning with fire that is cast into the sea. Revelation 8:10 and 11 gives further detail, speaking of a great star called wormwood that falls from heaven, poisoning the rivers and fountains of waters. Revelation 16:21 speaks of great hail out of heaven, each stone weighing about a talent, striking men in the final plague. Thus, from the flood to the end of time, the Bible presents a consistent picture. What God released in judgment during Noah's day was partly stored away in the heavens, to be unleashed once more in the climactic judgments of Earth's final battle. We are informed in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 109, in the last great conflict of the controversy with Satan, he, God, will use these elements to cleanse the earth from the corruption and wickedness that is upon it. In Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 82, we are given the same message. We are told, in the last days, God will use his weapons of indignation, hail, fire, and earthquakes to destroy those who have despised his law. In the book Maranatha, page 306, we are given a prophetic view into the future destruction. The record states, great balls of fire fell upon the houses, causing them to be instantly consumed. The judgments of God are soon to be poured out without mixture of mercy. Now in Genesis 7:11, speaking of the events of the great flood, we are told, the fountains of the great deep were broken up and the windows of heaven were opened. This indicates massive geological upheaval accompanied by volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and superheated water jets that reached far up into outer space, then freezing into massive mountains of icy comets. Some claim comets could not have originated from Earth, but Scripture indicates the violence of the flood was unlike any event we can imagine. The text emphasizes the bursting open of the deep, not a gradual release. Modern science admits Earth has expelled rock into space, as proven by Martian meteorites found on Earth. So it is not beyond possibility that Earth itself have seeded comets. Job 38, 22 and 23 describes God storing up treasures of snow and hail for a future time of judgment. Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? This implies a heavenly reservoir of hail, not just normal weather hail, but something reserved for eschatological events. Some only want to interpret Job poetically, but biblical prophecy often blends metaphor with literal fulfillment. For example, God's rhetorical questions in Job still reference real natural forces. Just as storehouses of the wind, Jeremiah 10:13, describe real atmospheric phenomena under God's control, the treasures of hail can also have both symbolic meaning, God's sovereignty, and literal reality, stored cosmic hail. Scripture frequently uses double layers of meaning. Revelation 8, 11 and 16 repeatedly mention hail, fire, and falling stars, meteors/comets/asteroids as instruments of divine judgment. Revelation 16:21 specifically speaks of hailstones about the weight of a talent, between 75 and 100 pounds each, far beyond any normal atmospheric hail, pointing to extraterrestrial ice. Still, some argue Revelation is purely symbolic. While apocalyptic literature uses symbols, it also records literal cosmic disturbances. Jesus himself predicted stars falling from heaven in Matthew 24:29. The plague of literal hail in Egypt, recorded in Exodus 9:23-25, prefigures the final plagues, showing God often combines symbolic meaning with real physical phenomena. When the fountains of the deep broke open, superheated pressurized water and molten rock erupted with tremendous force. Such violent ejections breached Earth's atmosphere, launching material into space. Modern science recognizes similar events: volcanic plumes on Jupiter's moon Io, impacts on Earth like Chicxulub, ejecting debris globally. Martian meteorites found on Earth prove that rocks can be blasted off a planet into space. Thus, it is scientifically proven that rocks and water from Earth were ejected into orbit during the cataclysm of the Flood. Secular science assumes comets formed in the Kuiper belt or Oort cloud, but this is a model, not direct proof. The discovery of Earth-origin meteorites already undermines the claim that ejected terrestrial material cannot become long-orbiting bodies. God used the flood's violence to seed space with judgment instruments. In the vacuum of space, water instantly freezes. If expelled from Earth, large amounts of water would crystallize into ice chunks, some possibly coalescing into comet-like bodies. Laboratory experiments confirm water vapor in vacuum chambers immediately freezes into ice crystals, supporting the feasibility of comet-like formation from expelled water. Now consider this: nearly all large craters on the Moon's near side faces Earth. Secular science explains this as gravitational focusing, but a biblical scientific view suggests that Earth-ejected material bombarded the near side of the Moon during the Flood, leaving those scars. This supports the idea that the Moon's craters may partly record the violence of Earth's watery cataclysm. Comets are dirty snowballs of ice and rock mixed. Since massive amounts of Earth's water and rock were ejected into orbit, some settled into elliptical cometary orbits. Halley's comet is thus interpreted as a wandering reminder of the Flood, circling back toward Earth every 76 years. Critics say Halley formed in the Oort cloud, yet its composition is nearly identical to water-ice mixtures available on Earth. Its orbit, being well documented, does not preclude a terrestrial origin. The ice and rock from the Flood event were scattered throughout the solar system. God is reserving these as judgment weapons for the last days. The hailstones, about the weight of a talent in Revelation 16:21, correspond to massive ice rock bodies, cometary fragments or icy asteroids, stored in orbit since the Flood. In the end times, these will re-enter Earth's atmosphere as catastrophic hailfire judgments. Revelation often uses symbols but also describes physical phenomena: fire, mountains, hail, stars. Thus, the great hail are both literal extraterrestrial ice and a symbol of divine wrath. Denying literal fulfillment in favor of pure symbolism overlooks God's consistent pattern. He uses physical events as visible signs of his invisible judgments. The flood, Sodom's fire, and Egypt's plagues were not just symbols, but real catastrophes with theological meaning. Revelation follows this same pattern. Comet composition of H2O, ice, CO2, methane, and dust aligns with what water and earth minerals would produce if expelled into space, the biblical text states. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. Revelation 8, 10, and 11. Let's see the interpretation of these passages. Great star means a literal cosmic body. Burning as a lamp describes a comet's fiery entry. Wormwood is bitterness or poison. John describes a celestial body impacting Earth's freshwater. While some view wormwood purely symbolically, the text specifies rivers and fountains of waters, physical features, not just spiritual corruption. This indicates a real contaminating event. Comet composition are ice, organics, heavy metals, toxic volatiles. This huge comet called Wormwood, possibly Halley's comet on entry into Earth's atmosphere, will break up, fall into bodies of water, dissolve and contaminate the waters. From a biblical scientific perspective, we learn the flood's fountains of the deep violently expelled vast amounts of water and rock into space. This material became comets, meteors and lunar impactors, many of which God has preserved in the heavens as his treasures of hail, as stated in Job 38:22 and 23. Scripture indicates these will return in the last days as catastrophic hailstones of judgment. Among them, Halley's comet and similar bodies are enduring remnants of the flood, preserved as cosmic instruments of prophecy. Revelation 8:10-11 describes the great star Wormwood, whose fiery entry matches John's vision of a star burning like a lamp. Its toxic, radiation-laced dust and ice dissolving into fresh water will literally make rivers bitter and deadly, fulfilling the prophecy that many men died of the waters. Thus, both the flood narrative and the Wormwood prophecy reveal a consistent truth. God has sovereignly reserved these cosmic bodies as agents of judgment, linking Earth's ancient past with its prophetic future.